Please.
That's so funny. There are so many commonalities. My name is Masha. I live next door, but only for the last 35 years. There's so many commonalities. When you did that, we have another seasonal holiday in Judaism called Sukkot, which is the holiday of the booths. And we shake this branch, and we shake it north, south, east, west, up, and down. You know, so I was just thinking, aha. Now, Purim, which means lots, the word means lots, like to throw lots, you know, like a game of chance, is a post-biblical holiday. And I was just thinking about it, and there actually is no real God thing in Purim. It's very interesting. And it's, you know, most Jewish holidays are, they tried to kill us, they didn't succeed, let's eat. Okay, so, and Purim is a little bit like that too. I mean, it's a lot like that, but it's supposed to be a really happy holiday because we really survived sort of in a very interesting way. And it happens, it's called the Book of Esther. You've heard of Esther? Which is called, and we call it the Megillah, which is a scroll like the Torah, post-biblical though, and you read it, and it's kind of long and boring if you really read the whole thing, so they rarely do, especially not in Reform Judaism, which I'm in. But the expression, if somebody wants to say, I told you the whole story, the whole long story, you say, it's such a Megillah, it's such a long story. And by the way, Esther's name, Esther, I just found out, is a Persian name. I'm actually wearing Egyptian stuff, so you should please excuse. But I figure it's kind of the same part of the world. Anyway, so Esther in Hebrew actually is the name Hadassah, which some of you might have heard is a women's organization or a hospital, okay, which is run by women. So there's a lot of woman stuff in this. And before I get to the story of it, I'll just tell you how it's celebrated, because most Jewish holidays, except for some of the post-biblical ones, are kind of solemn affairs with a lot of God stuff in them. But Purim is supposed to be, you're supposed to be happy. In fact, the month that happens in is called Adar. And like Kimberly said, all Jewish holidays are on moon cycles. We have a lunar calendar, but we get out of step with it, and so we have to have corrections. And I learned from some of my Muslim friends that Islam doesn't have corrections in their, they're also lunar, but they don't correct. So Ramadan can be, you know, sort of spring, summer, or fall. But we kind of like pull it back if it gets too late or if it gets too early. You know, we pull it back and we put another month in. And we put it in the month of Adar. And this year we have Adar 1 and Adar 2. And we say when we sometimes on Purim, you give baskets. There are sort of, you know, echoes of other holidays that have come about. So you give baskets or you do things for the poor. And you kind of say, hey, be happy, it's Adar, you know, because it's Purim coming. And one of the ways that we do that is to dress up in various things, because Purim is kind of a festival of disguises and not being exactly who you are. And so people, you'll see one year the rabbi dressed up as Batman and his wife was Robin, and we have Purim spiels, and spiel is a Yiddish word, also a German word, meaning play. So we always have a Purim spiel that people act in. I'm like, you know, very shy, so of course I'm in, you know, almost every single one. But there aren't that many of us in the temple that are. There aren't really Purim songs. I don't know any Purim songs except for little kids songs, so I'm not going to sing any. But we have, you know, various themes. I've done Star Wars, West Side Story. This year it's Barbie, apparently. And because there's always a fashion show, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But we dress, and it's supposed to be that you get so drunk. You're actually supposed to drink. Most Jewish holidays, you know, Jews sort of don't drink, you know, sort of, you know, communally. But except for a little wine on Passover, and that tastes like syrup. But anyway, but you're supposed to drink so much that you can't tell the good guy, Mordecai, from the bad guy whose name is Haman. Oh, we're not supposed to say that. No. We're supposed to drown it out with these things called groggers. So as they tell the Megillah, and they'll say, and Haman, and you go, ah! Which is great for the kids, and it's the noisiest holiday ever. So the story is, we're in Persia, okay? There was a really big Jewish community in Persia. It was one of the oldest Jewish communities, actually. And there was a big Jewish community. And in Persia lived this sort of wise man named Mordechai, and he sort of adopted his niece, whose name was Esther. Okay. Now there's the king there named Ahasuerus, which sounds like a throat disease, and King Ahasuerus. And he had this wife named Vashti, and she was very beautiful, but one day he had a big party and he got really drunk and he asked Vashti to dance naked, and she said, F you, I'm out of here. And he said, if you don't dress naked, you're banished. And she said, I guess I'm banished. So he threw her out, and then of course they had to look for a new queen. Now this is where the fun part comes in, because when you have these, when you do this in the temple situation, you can have a little fashion show, and it's hilarious because a lot of the exhibitionist people are women in my age group, so they're all and we're dressed up as different things. What was that last time? Oh yeah, we did it to Mamma Mia last year. That was it. So, and we'd use the songs of Mamma Mia to do that. King Ahasuerus, is getting this new queen, and Mordechai says to Esther, he says, listen, you're really pretty. I think you should do this because you might be good for our people at some point. So Esther tries out, and much to her surprise, she's chosen as the new queen. So she's Queen Esther, and everything's going along fine, but these guys, there are these other guys who are plotting against King Ahasuerus. And Mordechai overhears them. And he tells people to tell the king, and the king says, oh, you're a really good guy, I like you. Now meanwhile, his second in command is this guy named Haman. And Haman is really not a nice guy, and he really wants more fame and fortune for himself, and he wants everybody to bow down to him. He wants to go through town and everybody go, and he goes, brr, down there. But Jews don't bow to anything. So he's going through town and he's saying, oh, you bow. And Mordechai, who's just had all this success, goes, hell no, I won't go. I'm not going to bow down. And he's like, Urgh. And so he gets this bee in his bonnet that he's going to kill all the Jews. Doesn't that sound familiar? Anyway, so he's going to kill all the Jews. And he sends this out, and he says to the king, he says, these people, they're so hard-necked and awful, we should kill them. And the king goes, okay, because he's kind of a wuss. And meanwhile, Mordecai goes, oh my God, this is terrible. He calls Esther, and he says to Esther, don't tell anybody you're Jewish when he first goes in. But then he says, look, I think you got to tell them you're Jewish. And he says, go to the king and say, you're Jewish and you can't kill my people. So she says, if you go to the king without an invitation, he'll kill me, because that's what he does. And he says, well, be clever about it. And she says, well, maybe I can invite him to a meal, and then I'll get him like in a good mood. I'll give him lots of milk or something, sort of like what Judith did with Holofernes. Anyway, no, I'm not going to do that. But he says, so eventually she invites the king to a meal, and she tells him, she says, I hate to tell you this, but you kind of executed a death sentence to me and all my people. He goes, you? What do you mean? He goes, I'm Jewish, and Haman just did this thing. And he goes, no, I don't want to kill you. I'm going to rescind this. But Haman, why did you do this? And so he decides. Haman goes to the executioner's block, and the Jews are saved, but the order has already gone out. And so there is a lot of killing going on, but the Jews are able to defend themselves, and eventually there is some excess killing, but the Jews defend themselves, and in the end, everything turns out okay, and so it's all happy in the end. Yay! But it's a story of people dressing as different people appearing different, and all of this deceit and lying. God really doesn't come into this, which is interesting, and it's people kind of doing this whole thing, and it's very women empowered. It's called the Book of Esther. And if you ever read what you guys call the Old Testament, there aren't a lot of women named in it. Mm-hmm. You get named is a big deal. So the fact that this is named after a woman is very important, and many Jewish women are named Esther, including my mother was. And look, she was born in March, and I think they ran out of names. She was number 5. So she was named Esther. So anyway, so that is this story of Purim, and it ties completely into this whole thing because it is the spring holiday. It falls somewhere between February and March usually, and it starts tonight. Our holidays are starting to be later this year. You'll notice Passover, which usually appears around the same time as as Easter. So if we go to somebody's house at Passover, we can't have the ham. But anyway, you'll see the Jewish holidays are all going to be later this year. Passover doesn't start till April 22nd. And the high holidays, so if you guys have have children in the schools, you're going to find that the Jewish holidays are not in September, they're in October. And then Hanukkah is going to be right at the end of December, like the last day of Christmas. Like December 25th or something, or 26th. So it's all going to be screwed up, and then it'll start getting earlier and earlier and earlier until it gets too early, and then it's like, okay, it's Adar 2 again. So this is a very important month. So anyway, so that is the story of Purim, and thank you very much. And in Purim you dress up, which is why I'm wearing, I got this in Egypt, and I got it specifically because I knew I could wear it at Purim. They think I'm going to wear it otherwise. So it's our version of Halloween, actually. There's a Purim carnival at Temple Isaiah tomorrow, where the kids, have games of chance, because that's the whole thing. And they dress up, and they have a little fashion show, a costume show, just like Halloween. And the staff, the staff of the Hebrew school puts on a Purim spiel for the kids. So that tomorrow's is Barbie. Okay.
Thank you, Masha.